Rachel, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this virtual experience with Go Ape in the Trossachs National Park in the Scottish Highlands. As we all know, it's Earth Day today, and together with Go Ape, we want to inspire you to let the outdoors in and go on a great exploration today. Before we join our hosts for this virtual experience, just a few logistics from me to take care of. The first is that we would love your questions today. So if you have any questions at all for the Go Ape team, you can submit them through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. There'll be a Q&A at the end of the experience, but also I can ask them throughout. So please just feel free to send through your questions and we'll try to answer as many as possible. You can also go in the Q&A box to vote on your favorite questions. So even if you don't have one of your own, you can make sure we answer the ones you're most interested in by voting there. This is a Zoom webinar, so your camera won't be on, but you can use the chat to communicate with your fellow attendees. Just be sure to select all panelists and attendees when you're sending your chat message, and then everyone will be able to see it. Also, if you have any technical difficulties at all, you can send a chat. Oh, I see a school has joined us. Welcome. You can send a chat to just all panelists and we'll help you out. That said, most technical difficulties are solved by simply leaving the Zoom and rejoining, and then that'll reset anything on your end. Finally, this experience will be recorded, and you'll also be able to watch all of the great explorations experiences coming on the Tiqets Facebook page for the rest of the week and weekend, and we'll be sending a recording to all registrants in the coming week. So if you missed something or want to join it, share it with your friends, that is more than welcome to do. We'll start today with a little short video to learn more about Go Ape and all of the breathtaking nature that you can explore at their sites. So I'll cue that up, and then after that, we'll start our live experience. Lovely. So with that, you've gotten a little bit of a taste of all the incredible nature you can explore with Go Ape and a little bit of preview of today's location, which Stephen is there live right now to take us away. So Stephen, all over to you.
Morning, everyone. As Rachel just so kindly introduced, my name's Stephen. I'm the site manager here at Aberfoyle, and behind me, Campsies. So we are the gateway to the Highlands. We're in the Trossachs and Loch Lomond National Park, which Loch Lomond's very famous, lots of songs about it. And what I'm going to do today is just have a walk through, show you some of our zip lines, show you some of the scenery, talk a wee bit about the history of the place, and a wee bit about obviously why we're here, Go Ape, and yeah, show you where we are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the camera around so you can see what I'm seeing. Right on cue. Excuse the lovely bends. So where we are located, I say Aberfoyle. Aberfoyle is famous for a few things. That is one of them, and that is slate. Aberfoyle slate is very famous, and it's something that's been mined up here for quite a few years. The second thing that Aberfoyle is famous for is fairies. So fairies, there's a very famous tree just over behind where we are now, way down here, and a very famous church. And basically it's a gateway to the fairies. So a lot of gateways up here. And the third thing we are famous for up here is Go Ape. So you might see us hiding behind here. And obviously it's being Earth Day, I'm going to talk a little bit about sustainability and what we do as a company. Go Ape are very conscious about our sustainability and how we present ourselves. Also, we use a commodity that's obviously quite scarce sometimes. Those things out there are trees. And here is our little humble home in the forest. So we have our cabin. You may notice on the cabin our roof. That roof, that is a living roof. So what that means is we allow things to grow up there to make it look all nice and pretty. What you also notice up the top there, this big silver bit at the top, that is the heating system for the whole lodge. And that uses a biomass boiler. So what's underneath our cabin, down the wee hatch down here, is a big swing arm that basically pulls loads of wood chip through and uses obviously wood to fuel us. And excuse the sunlight. The lodge here, this is the David Marshall Lodge. It's owned by the Forestry Commission, and it's been within their properties from about the 1960s. It's a nice old building, and obviously with the slate, it's actually a listed building. So a little bit about Go Ape. We have been in what we do, doing what we do from 2002. This site here has been on the go since 2007. So we're 19 years in business and loving every bit of it. So our philosophy is to obviously promote adventure and get people outside on a day like Earth Day, like this. It's hard, isn't it? That way at the back there, you might be able to just see, is Ben Lomond. And Ben Lomond is a lovely, lovely hill. If you're ever in and around Glasgow, we are an hour from Glasgow, and we're an hour from Stirling, and that is where you want to go. It's a beautiful hill, nice views. And then where we're going, but it is what it is, and that's why I want to show you what we have to offer outside in a nice, safe, COVID-safe environment. And where we're going is just over here. So you can see our wee pal over here, that big gorilla. He's called Duke after the Duke's Pass. It's a very famous road that goes up and over that way. My colleague here, Kerry, is going to be my chasing partner. So we're going to go down and across these zip lines. So here we are lucky to have the two biggest zip lines in Scotland currently, and they are dual zips. You can race your friends going down. One question I always get asked about the zip lines is, how do we get them there? I wouldn't say easy, it's not easy, but what we do is we get a bit of rope and somebody walks through the forest with a small piece of string. We attach a bigger bit of string to it, and then we attach that bigger bit of string to another bigger bit of string until we get to the point where we can pull this cable across. I'm going to come up here and just attach myself on, and that's our cable. So our cables, these first zip lines we come to, are 323 meters long. So what I'm going to do, I introduce Kerry. There's Kerry. And what we're going to do, clip on, we're going to go down here. Obviously, given nature where we are in a forest, so 3 and 4G Wi-Fi isn't always that accessible. So what we might happen is we might lose a wee bit of signal. If we do, Rachel's been instructed to stop me talking, and she'll then give you some videos to watch. So I'm just going to clip myself on, make myself nice and safe. And then, because we're competitive, I'll be racing Kerry down here. So we're clipping ourselves on. We've got 2 safety attachments. And we'll count ourselves down. 3, 2, 1. And we're off. How's that for a commute? So I'm going to switch my camera around here. Not bad. Windswept and interesting. So what we're going to do from here on, we're going to have a walk up the hill. We'll talk a little bit about what we do as a company to be sustainable, how we treat our trees, because obviously it's the lifeblood of what we do here. So you may have noticed what we're landing on. This lovely stuff. So this is wood chip, wood peel. We use different kinds, but this is usually a byproduct of a lot of timber farming. So what we do is we use that as a nice eco-friendly thing to basically have people land on. You'll find this in your trousers, pants, shoes, anytime you visit a Go Ape site. So what we're going to do from here on out, we're going to head up the hill. You may have noticed as we go around, you might hear it in the background now, is we have a waterfall here called Little Fallen Waterfall, and that passes underneath the treetops as we're going round. So as we're walking up, I'm going to talk you through a couple of wee bits that I quite like about our site. We use FCS timber, which is basically ethically sourced timber for around the world. And we make sure that when we're using our wood, we are using stuff that is sustainable. We're not chopping down nice big trees like the ones that I'm going to show you here as we walk up. So it's obviously nice in the forest, big old oak trees. Majority of our trees we have up at our site is a Sitka spruce. And being a Forestry Commission or Forestry and Land Scotland site, these are usually kind of planted trees. We have Douglas fir and a few other different species. As is Earth Day, I'm going to pick out my favourite tree, which luckily is this big old oak tree on the way up. And to me, it's just so interesting, all the twists and turns. It looks like something you get on Sleepy Hollow or some sort of scary movie. But it's a beautiful big tree. Very different to what we usually have. So obviously with Scotland, where we are, it's very hilly. So I'm going to be walking up this hill, so I apologise if you hear me out of breath. I promise I am an athlete. And us Scots folk, we do love walking up hills. A few other questions you might ask about being Scottish. Yes, we do drink lots of whiskey. No, I've not seen Loch Ness Monster, or at least I'm not allowed to tell you I've seen it. But yeah, it's good being Scottish. We do eat a lot of haggis as well. I did see a question pop up, Rachel. If you feel free to let me know what the question is, I can answer it, hopefully.
Yeah, there's one question so far, Stephen, which is about the zip lines. Someone said that they visited a few years ago and they went down one at a time. They're wondering if the second zip line was a new addition.
Yeah, brand new. So that was built just there at the end of March. So it's still one person at a time, but as you hopefully saw in the video, you can race your pal. So me and Kerry obviously race each other down, and that's a new addition for 2021. There's one of the waterfalls I was talking about. That's a little feeder waterfall. And obviously being quiet today, we're closed for the public, so you're getting behind the scenes access. It's nice and quiet, and you hear the birds, hopefully. Hopefully it's not just my out of breath breathing as I go up this hill. It never gets easier. But I'll have legs of steel. So this is us approaching our first site. So Go Ape is not about just zip lines. We have so many different activities for varying ages, from your wee small toddlers to go up in the trees, or net sports, to what we have here is our challenge course, which is slightly bigger, more adventurous, but still accessible for anyone from the age of 10 upwards. And this is what it looks like. So, a bit about our sustainability here. You may notice little piles of trees here. And off in the distance, anytime we have any cuttings of trees from maintenance, we like to make big piles of these trees off outside the sites. And that allows animals to natural hides, natural dens, rather than just getting rid of, burn it and get rid of it all. I hear somebody saying we can't hear anyone.
We can hear you.
So audio, Rachel?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. There is a question
Okay,
though.
fine.
Someone's asking, what's your job? I think it's a student on the line who wants to know how they can grow up and have a job like this. So maybe you can tell a little bit more, Stephen, about how you got into this career path.
Yeah. So I'll spin the camera around. So I started with Go Ape 10 years ago. I know I look fresh-faced, but I'm in my 30s now, and I started after I finished university. So I studied to be a physiotherapist. And after a wee trip to Australia, I found a very similar, well, say similar, slightly different Australia weather-wise. Well, today you can't really tell. But I found a course like this, came home, wasn't sure what I was doing, and I found Go Ape. I thought, I'll do that for a year, a wee summer job before I go off to be a physiotherapist. And within about a week of being here, I realised actually, why would I leave somewhere like this? It's in the forest. You can hear the birds if I be quiet for a second. And you hear the waterfall. It's so peaceful. So,
yeah, I can answer that a little bit as well, because I've come from a different angle. I'm one of the instructors here as well. And for myself, I came here as a customer maybe 4 or 5 times. Absolutely loved it. It was the same as Stephen, studied to do something completely different, but was always quite interested in being outdoors, being active, and just kept an eye on the website for applications, and here I am 6 years later.
So a lot of the job is on-site training. So the main thing for us is having people that are people. So you can talk to customers. A lot of our job is ensure that everybody creates memories at our sites. We want people to come out here, enjoy the forest like we do every day, and just be able to create memories with their family, their friends, loved ones, and just, especially now, a time where we've been locked up for so long, everyone's struggling with the mental health. I think Earth Day is a great time to be out and about and just reconnect with everything that is normal nature. Just get out, find somewhere quiet, and just enjoy yourself. Hopefully that answers the question. No, us Scottish people tend to talk fast and talk a lot. So I apologise if you don't understand me. I notice there's a lot of people from around about Europe. If you don't understand, do tell me. I see another question coming through, Rachel. Feel free to.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of them is someone who wants to enjoy the zip lines, but they have a little bit of a fear of heights. So they're asking if you have any tips of overcoming a fear of heights, and how to enjoy that.
100%. So part of the reason I actually came here after being in Australia, I was terrified. I hated heights. The thoughts of heights gave me anxiety, sweats, all that fun stuff. And it's that aversion therapy, doing something you're scared of, do what excites, live life adventurously is our motto. And to me, that just, it screamed out like that's something I want to do. So we obviously start off quite low and we build up gradually. Got people like Kerry and other instructors. They'll be out in the course, they'll talk you through it. We use a lot of safety equipment. You can see Kerry's harness there. So we have 2 safety lines. People often get a tiny bit of rope. These ropes are rated, they could pull a family-sized car, no bother. So I think it's just trusting the equipment, trusting instructors, and just trying to push yourself out a little bit. Like say, living life adventurely is a big one for us, and I think getting out and facing your fears is a good way to do it.
Definitely. And someone wants to know how high up off the ground the zip line is.
See, it's a question we get asked quite often. And
we have one close estimate.
We have a close estimate. We have two options. We either tell you the truth or we tell you about a metre and a half. But realistically, talking about 20, 25 metres at the start of it, and it builds to about 40 metres as you go over the waterfall. So, yeah, it's quite high, but we build you up gradually. That's the last thing you do. Obviously, Aberfoyle is slightly different. We have that big zip line as you start, and that's quite extreme start, should we say. See, there's another couple of questions.
Yeah. So someone wants to know, how old were the youngest and oldest visitors you've ever had? Are there any age requirements to keep in mind? And have you seen any grandmas really enjoying the zip line? What's the kind of range of people who come?
Yeah, I think that's something we like at Go Ape. We like to be accessible for everyone as best we can. The youngest person we have at Aberfoyle, due to what course we have, so we have a challenge activity, which is based more at the kind of young 10 to 15-year-olds upwards. So our youngest site's 10. We do have other sites, like say down south. We've got 35 locations across the country. You're never more than an hour away from a site in England and Scotland. And oldest we've had at this site is about 94. That was a gentleman from Glasgow who was amazing, absolutely amazing. Funny man, and just lived life to the fullest. He was brilliant. Also in the company, we had a chap a couple of years ago called Jack, who visited our site down in Grisdale, who took part in our zip trek, and he was over 100.
He was 108 years old and broke the world record for the oldest person on a zip wire.
There you go. So he had a Guinness World Record to boot, just for getting out there and doing something exciting. So yeah, our site 90 odd, 92, 93, and up to over 100. So never too old. It's something we get told every time. I'm too old for that. You're never too old for it. Get out in the forest.
Yeah, that's incredible. I can hope that I'm at 104 going on a zip line still. I think that we can all aim towards that. Someone from the attendees says that her dad did Go Ape with them last year and loved it, and her dad is 74. So I'm glad some family members have enjoyed the experience. Next question is from the Thornton Primary School, some students joining us. They want to know why you build the zip wires in a forest.
Good question. I think the easiest answer to that is when you look at the view. So I'll just switch the camera around to get a view of what will be going down very shortly. It's hard not to want to build out here. You've got all these trees and nature and the birds. But something that Go Ape has changed recently, I'll come back to myself. We have a lot of sites now down in and around kind of metropolitan areas, London being one of our busiest areas. Battersea Park is built on trees. These are metal poles that are designed to look like trees. So yeah, we like the forest, we like being out in nature, but we are realizing that people aren't always able to travel. So we're now branching out a wee bit and going into city locations.
Lovely.
The trees are very, very strong and resilient.
And I know you mentioned that you do a lot to build sustainably with nature and support the forest when you're in a forest. So maybe you could share a little bit about that as well.
Yep, that's where I'm walking to just now. So what I'm going to do is talk a wee bit about how we protect our trees. So I'll swing you around. So this is how we put our trees or put our zip lines around trees. You'll notice you've got these wooden battens, and these battens are designed to stop that cable from going into that tree. It allows the tree to grow. So what we can do, we can loosen off. We've got bolts here. We loosen those off and allow the tree to expand and move. And that's how we protect the trees at the base level. What I'll do, I'll swing around a little bit and you'll see the platforms. You'll be able to go see this a wee bit easier later on, but on the platforms, what we do, rather than bolting into the trees, obviously we need the trees to survive as a course. So we don't like bolting anything into the trees as best we can. And what we do there is we have what we call a brace. We have bits of wood with big bolts sliding either side of those trees, and it squeezes onto the tree. So it's using basically friction to hold itself up there. And what that allows us to do is after a few months, a year, depending on how old the trees are, what we can do is we can loosen off those bolts and allow that tree to expand and grow. So we're not constricting the tree, because that'll eventually cause the tree to lose its life. So we like to allow ourselves to be able to, loosen off these bolts and let the tree grow. We also use wooden on the platform. And the same idea, we leave a nice gap, at least 2 to 3 inches, to allow the tree to grow into that area. And that means that we can prolong the life of the trees and not damage the trees. So that's one common question we get is, how do we protect our trees? And that's the best way of doing it, is just allowing the trees to grow. And they do heal after time. So if we take any equipment off, the tree will just go round about it. Trees, as I say, are very resilient, and nature just always prevails and sorts itself out. So what I'm going to do is walk a wee bit of a forest here. So I'm going to take you to our biggest site. So those of you who've been before, I see a couple of you in the chat have been before, I'll show you the Tarzan Swings are one of our more famous wow crossings, we call them. And that is effectively a big jump out the platforms, through the trees, into a big cargo net. And you'll see throughout here, we like to keep a forest. We do have type 1 hardcore rubble on the floor. An idea of having this is to basically protect the tree roots, so we're not having people walking out in the grass here, damaging roots by walking off the path. So we like to keep it compact, and it allows the roots to be protected effectively. And then here we are. So this is some of our bigger, older trees here, and some big old platforms. I'll go over to give you an idea of the size, because it's quite hard to tell in the video. But I will not be able to hug this tree, it's so big. I'll get Kerry to jump in and she can show you just how big some of our trees are. So Kerry looks quite small in that video there. She's actually 14 foot tall. She's an absolute giant, so you can tell how big that tree is. But that's one of the biggest trees we have up here at Go Ape in Aberfoyle.
And as Stephen, I was talking about, one of the questions is, what are the types of trees growing in the region? I think you mentioned a couple types, so maybe you could explain a little more which trees what kind of trees we're looking at. Yeah, so as I say, it's a forestry commission site, so they have in the last few years gone to more kind of traditional Scots species, so Scots pine, Douglas firs and things, but what we have predominantly here is Sitka spruce. I'll see if I can find some young ones down here. But Sitka spruce, you can tell that by the underside of the leaves. They have a yellowy tinge, which hopefully you'll be able to see. There's a colour of this tree here. I don't know if you can quite tell on the camera, but they've got a slight yellowy tinge on the bottom side. So Sitka spruce and larch. So we can see some larches through the trees here. I'll come through this wee side bit. And you see there's lots of young trees around about here, all varying different breeds and species. I'd love to profess to be an expert on every single tree in and around Scotland, but I think that's a whole different profession itself. So yep, lots of pines, firs. Hopefully through here you might see some of our kind of taller, older larch trees. And I was always told that the way of telling different trees is when you come to see the needles, if it's in singles, it's usually spruce. If it's in twos, it's pears, so it's pine. And then if it's lots, it's larch. So you can see possibly see what I'm talking about with single needles coming out of that. And this is one of our Sitka spruce. Maybe see that kind of bluish colour on the bottom there, bluish tinge. And that's how we tell it's a Sitka spruce. Hopefully that answers the question there. Yeah, I think so. And we hear a lot of birds in the background. Maybe you could also share a bit about what types of birds live in the area and what other wildlife is around. Yeah, so in and around this forest, we're blessed in that where we are. I'll turn the camera around so talk to me a wee bit. So yeah, in this forest, in and around here, we have red squirrels. We're quite lucky up here that we don't have the invasive grey squirrels yet. Thankfully, so we've got lots of red squirrels. We get stoats, which are small weasel type animals. We get pine martens, which are very, very elusive. If you see a pine marten when you come to our course, that is something to be proud of and boast about. In terms of birds, where we are, we have ospreys, which are animals, big birds that fly from Africa and migrate, and they come to live in Scotland.
at points within the year.
At the moment, if you come to our site, you can see mating buzzards as well.
Yeah.
And you can hear them before you see them in the forest. And if you look up, you'll see them circling above the trees right above you.
Yeah, where we're situated, you'll see it when we go back, is we're in a valley. So we get a lot of kind of warm airflow comes down into that valley and comes up. So you see the buzzards doing that circling and flying up in the air. We've also got, you may have seen the crags when I was walking out earlier on. In the crags, we have Peregrine Falcons as well, which they're fascinating to watch. You see that there's a lake just around the corner from us called Lake Menteith, the only lake in Scotland, might I add. And they fly along there and they've got this really loud pitched screeching noise, which is amazing to watch them because they are obviously one of the fastest animals in the animal kingdom. Apart from that, you maybe hear, if I be quiet for a second, there's a wood pigeon. Always happens when it's live. Wood pigeon stops cooing. So yeah, wood pigeons up here as well, but birds you can probably hear singing, we've got all different types. We've got blue tits, gold tits, lots and lots of different small birds like that.
Robins as well.
Yep.
It's been quite common in the past that with our wood chip, we like to kind of make it nice and light and airy and fluffy for our customers to land on. So we dig it up each night and then make it all smooth. And while you're digging it, sometimes you'll find the robins follow you down the landing site. And that's them getting in at the worms and trying to find all the little bugs that might get in between the wood chip. So that's quite cute to watch.
The other things we get a lot of wee small voles and small rodents around about here, and we quite often give them wee nicknames and things. We've had Sebastian, a wee water vole, so there's loads and loads of wee animals. But you can just hear it just now. So that's another thing that people talk about Go Ape as being quite loud and scaring the wildlife away. But as you can hear today, it's not the case. It's something we love as instructors. We're out here watching it every morning, listening to the birds. That's what makes being here so beautiful. It's just, yeah, getting to enjoy the scenery as well as the wildlife.
Definitely. And you mentioned that you're near the only lake in Scotland. I bet a common question that non-Scots have is what's the difference between a loch and a lake? Maybe you could explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So a loch is basically the Scottish version of a lake. We like to be different in Scotland. So we have very big hills, very deep lochs. And we've got a very famous one. I've mentioned a few times, Loch Lomond. There's even a song about it. If you ever come to Scotland for a wedding,
Yon Bonny Banks.
Be prepared. There's a very famous Scottish wedding song, Loch Lomond, and it's basically the end of the night and everyone goes mental and runs into a big circle and do what Scots do.
Party.
Have a good party.
Yeah.
So Lake Menteith, is the only lake in Scotland that I'm aware of, and it's famous for that. It's actually got history with Mary Queen of Scots. There's a chapel on it, and by all accounts, Mary Queen of Scots was banished out there years and years ago. And there's also a famous wee forest there, supposedly she planted. So lots of history about here. I mentioned about Robert Kirk and the fairies. That is something that Aberfoyle is very famous for. Is this Reverend Robert Kirk is a tree and a forest over there that supposedly was a gateway to the fairies, and even today people come and tie a ribbon around this tree on what's called Doon Hill, spelled D-O-O-N, and that is where he used to go and speak to the fairies. He wrote books about it. He's obviously very, very famous man in terms of the fairy world.
Great. We have a question that has to do with a different type of animal. So someone wants to know if they're on holiday with their dog, could they take turns going and exploring the site and leave the dog at the base? Is it a dog-friendly area, or would that disrupt the wildlife in some way?
So that's yes and no. So we do have public access everywhere in Scotland. So we do have dogs in around the place. I personally have my little dog, Bella, that comes to the site. So if you ever want to go Aberfoyle, and we do bring dogs on site sometimes. Obviously, with being on the forest protection land, we need to make sure we are being responsible with our dogs. If you know your dog has a tendency to run away and maybe is a bit barky and snappy, keep it on lead. But especially in around our land sites, we like dogs to be on leads just because they tend to go a wee bit crazy and start chasing people and barking. Digging.
Yeah.
Digging's a big one. It helps us. We obviously have to dig our land sites to make sure they're nice and fluffy. So any dog wants to dig when customers aren't here, more than welcome. But yeah, we love dogs. I'm sure there's not a Go Ape site in the country that doesn't love dogs, but we have to be responsible at any time we have dogs out here. We don't tend to look after dogs in the cabin just because we don't know dogs and we wouldn't like something to happen. So if you have somebody to look after, they can walk over. We have wee maps in around the site, tell you where to go, and you can walk all the way over here. It's a nice 10-minute walk through the forest, down past the waterfall. So yeah, dogs are definitely welcome, within reason. We need to be sensible about it.
Yeah, the paths we're walking on just now, if I know someone asked earlier on about what would you do if you're scared of heights. Some people want to come and they just want to watch their families, be spectators, be the photographer for the day. That's absolutely fine. And same thing for them. And if you're walking a dog over, there are routes that you can walk over and you can walk along these paths we're on just now and watch your family and friends from underneath. So, yeah.
Lovely. To go to a different type of topic, someone wants to know, what is your favorite time of year to be outdoors here? I'm sure every season is beautiful in its own way, but do you have a favorite season to be here?
Yeah, well, Kerry and I were saying that this morning. We've obviously had to come in early this morning to check the course and just make sure everything's safe for us to use it and to make sure you guys are here to see it as well. And this time of year is my favourite. When it's cold and crisp and you've got the sun out, it's beautiful. It's really nice. But each season has its own quirks. Like when it's wet, windy and rainy, the joy you get about it being soaking wet. How often do you go outside and you get soaking wet? Nobody enjoys that. But as an adult, you avoid it like the plague. But to go out, be soaking wet, covered in wood chip and bark, it's hard not to have a laugh about it. What about you, Kev? Your favourite time of the year?
I was discussing this yesterday, actually. May, like mid to the end of May is usually my favourite time because it's when everything's starting to get a bit more green. There's more leaves on the trees and it's a bit warmer. I'm not like Stephen, I don't like the cold. So I quite like it when it gets into the 20s in temperature. And May's beautiful. It's a good temperature then as well. So, yeah.
Great. And someone wants to know if you're open during the winter or do you close for the season?
This is something that's changed over the last maybe 2-3 years. Historically, Go Ape has been like any outdoor business, quite seasonal. But what we found is that actually people like coming out here in different kind of weather. So we usually open year round now. We tend to go down to weekends only, so a shorter day. Obviously, daylight being an issue, we don't operate all the time. After hours, what we tend to do is we run by sunlight. So during the winter, shorter hours tend to have a last brief around midday. It's a nice morning activity. But we do offer after hour sessions where we do these big zip lines, which we'll go to in a second, at night.
Lovely. And someone wants to know if you have a friendly competition with the other Go Ape centers in places like the US or other places in the UK. And I'd maybe add on to the competition question to ask if, I assume this is both of your favorite location, but if you had to pick a second favorite, which would be the other location you'd go to?
This is hard. It's like asking to pick your favorite child. And I'm going to be slightly biased and say, no matter what any other Go Ape manager might say, we have got some of the best views. We have a beautiful site up here. But if I'm being nice about it, for me, I've been to Glasgow quite a few times down the Lake District. I find it's very similar to Scotland. I feel, although it's in England, not Scotland, I feel a wee bit at home. It's very similar to what we have here. And just the scenery around about there. We've got other sites. Windlatter as well. They have quite an interesting Segway course, which is a cool way to explore the forest. There's going out in two wheels, and some of the views they have, the top of their Segway course is unbelievable.
Yeah, I've not had the opportunity to go to quite as many different sites. Been to a couple down in England and the other ones in Scotland. And I have to say I quite like Peebles down in the borders in Scotland, or borders-ish, almost borders.
It's about an hour outside Edinburgh.
Yeah, aye. But they've got a couple of longer zip wires as well, and they go over a little lochs, which is when you're talking about
lochs and lakes.
Lochs and lakes, a lochs is a small loch that's bigger than a pond. So it goes over that, and it's quite pretty as well. It's good fun. It's also a good course. So.
But the good thing about Go Ape is, although we are predominantly forest based, we are so different. We all have our unique parts that are amazing, and I've been to Battersea before down in London, and although it's not in the forest, it's got trees round about. Battersea Park is beautiful at the best of times, but being able to do something like this in the middle of a city is great opportunity. And being up that high, you can see parts of London from a different perspective. Unless you go in the London Eye, it's not often you get up 20 metres in the air to look around. It's, yeah, each site's unique and different, but there's no place like home.
Of course. Another person wants to know, what's your best visitor memory? So I know you shared the 94-year-old who came to your site, but do you have another kind of favorite memory with a visitor?
I absolutely do. I for the life of me, I can't remember the chap's name, and I feel terrible for it. But we had a chap who was blind who came on the course, and one of our staff members went up and kind of guided him through it, and he was so enthusiastic and so happy to be there. He had his own guide with him as well, so he also went up. But after a while, he was going so quickly along with our instructor that his own support helper couldn't keep up. So because he was so enthusiastic and he was enjoying himself so much, so I think that's probably one of my best customer memories, is watching him just absolutely beast round the course.
It's a very Scottish word. So beast means going really quickly, really impressive.
Yeah.
For me, having been scared of heights myself, I just enjoy seeing anybody that comes to the site, comes to the window to check in, fill out the paperwork, reading something out, getting a wee bit apprehensive, and just seeing the joy as they come back in our final zip line, they can getting a certificate, going away, just feeling like they've achieved something. That's something that we love at Go Ape, is that's partly why we have what we call continuous belay, so that confidence building and clip yourself on and off. And that's something we offer with school packages, that we can tailor that to give that kind of confidence boost to younger people. And I think that's something that we love seeing, is just seeing the development. And you have a group of kids that maybe come up and talk to each other, they've got the wee groups, and they come on the course, and seeing that help between each other and encouragement, and just people laughing. People laughing is something that makes us happy and makes us enjoy what we do. And it's, yeah, just seeing people coming back from scared and overcoming their fears a little bit for the day, and just creating memories, like I say, and just enjoying it.
There's nothing quite like seeing someone with the biggest grin on their face at the end of the day, who was shaking like a leaf before they started, and them just being so proud of what they've achieved. It's so good to see.
Your guys' love for your job really comes through. It's beautiful. We have a couple more questions about, your job, how long each of you have been doing this, how you got the job. I think you touched on that before, but maybe some people missed it. So maybe, as you continue to the next site, you can each share your story again.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue. So what we'll do now, just behind Kerry and I, we have our big zip line. So that feels like a perfect segue to say we're going to hit the big zips. And what we'll do, we'll reconvene over the far side, and we'll have a sit and chat on the wood chip, and we'll have a chat about how we came to be and a little more about the site if you want. So what we'll do, I'll flip the camera around. There will be a bit of me clipping on and off. So there might be points where it looks like I've fallen out of trees. Promise I'll be safe. Okay. So what we'll do, I'll spin the camera around. And this is us heading into our final zip. So this is the best commute in the world. And this is how we get to and from the site as an instructor, which is obviously the perk of the jobs. And we'll just go through here. So we have the safety system here. It's called the stop fall. Basically like a climbing seat belt. And what I'm going to be doing is clipping this onto my harness. And my safety lines just go into this attachment point. And that allows me to climb up this lovely... Oh, sorry. Flat time, technical issues at the last minute. What I'll do, I'll just... Apologies. So what I'm going to do is clip myself up here, climb up the ladder, and then we'll show you the zip lines. So we use rope ladders here, and that's not just to make it cruel, make it all wobbly as you climb up. That's to allow us to make the site secure and safe at the end of the days. And as we come up here, you'll see Go Ape's golden safety rule, which is this yellow sign, which is to always stay attached. And what we're staying attached to is our safety systems around the trees. This red loop, so what I'm doing is moving my safety lines onto here one at a time. This is what I'm talking about, self-belay. So I'm moving these safety lines myself, making myself safe and secure as I go around. So you always have two of those as you move around the course. And here's part of the forest as I clip up. And we have to pull this down. And there's a forest. So this is the public access track. Somebody talked about walking their dogs. That path is part of National Cycle Route 7. And that goes all the way through the kind of central belt of Scotland from Aberfoyle through to Callander and beyond. And that's a very, very popular cycling route for anyone that fancies it. Oh, speaking of, it's almost like I planned this. Here's some cyclists just now coming up and enjoying the forest. And like I say, that goes all the way to Callander and it's a very, very popular cycling route. Good way to travel through Scotland. So what I'm going to do now, make our way up this ladder, which is a skill unto itself where you're holding a camera. And here we are reaching the top. A lovely yellow sign reminding me to make myself safe. And I'll make myself safe by clipping myself back into the system. And removing my hook. I'll spin round so you can see Kerry. Because at Go Ape we are now very, very competitive. Just about one person at a time. This is what will allow us to do 2 people at a time on separate zips. And that's where we're going. So I'm going to clip myself onto our safety system. Zoom over to Kerry and you can see from my angle. And this is, like I say, our daily commute to and from the site. So audio might go a little bit interesting here. People ask about how fast you go. That varies depending on age, height, build, but 100 mile an hour. Realistically, about 20, 25 mile an hour. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. As you can see,
beautiful.
Kerry's being competitive and she won that. I was being the photographer filmer. So what you might have heard there, that kind of loud crashing noise, is what we call a zip stop. It's a braking system we use on our large zip lines here. So amazing. That's how we slow down. And that just allows us as fast as we can.
And Stephen, I think we're going to have to end with that lovely view of that last zip line because soon enough, Earth Day is going to move into France and an aquarium that's going to start in about 10 minutes. So I encourage the audience to all join us for that as well. But Stephen, this was absolutely beautiful. I thank you so much for this experience. I don't know if you have any final words for the audience you'd like to share, but it's really been lovely to see the site through both of your eyes and both of your perspectives.
Yeah, for me, it's just get outside and enjoy it. If you want to work in this industry, it is so rewarding. Being out here and getting paid to do this, I couldn't ask for anything better. I've come from a completely different background. Any background's welcome. We've had customer service, me physiotherapy. It's yeah, it's for everybody and anyone,
Yeah.
any age, any size, anything. Come to us. We'll get you this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Anything you like. Thank
So
you, everyone. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to take you around our site. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for the opportunity, Rachel, and the team at Tiqets.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Please, the link is in the chat for the next great explorations you can sign up for, and then we'll send this recording around for anyone who wants to relive this experience. But go visit Go Ape in person too. I mean, nothing beats being there and hearing the nature and seeing it in person. So fabulous. Have a great rest of your day. Happy Earth Day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.